Good day, watch fans. Is the Rolex 16610LN the greatest watch ever made? Today we take a look at the iconic Rolex Submariner 16610LN. In 1987, Rolex introduced the Submariner 16610LN, and it has become one of the most iconic Submariners to date. And this Submariner is the one that most people think of when they think of the iconic Rolex Submariner. Now, this model, to many, bridged the gap between the vintage Submariners and the modern Submariners. And we're going to have a little look at why this Submariner is so iconic and what is so great about it. So the Submariner reference number 16610LN ran between 1988 and 2010, around about then. Now, in this time, there's a few iterations of this model, and we're going to look at them and explain the differences. The 16610LN arrived in 1988, and it was the fourth iteration of the Rolex Submariner. Now, this model looked virtually identical to its predecessors, but there was a few key differences in it, mainly the caliber and the movement inside this watch. The movement was caliber 3135. Now, this movement promised more stability and better function compared to previous models of the Rolex Submariner. Now, we'll come back to the caliber and the movement in a little bit, but first off, we're going to look at the differences between the models over the years and what you can look at to tell them apart. So the first thing we're going to look at is the case. The case on the Rolex Submariner 16610LN is a 40mm stainless steel case. Now, this 40mm Oyster case was crafted from 904L stainless steel, and that is Rolex's signature stainless steel. Now, this case features a triple lock screw down crown, a flat sapphire crystal Cyclops magnification lens, and a solid screw down case back. 16610 offers 300 meters water resistance. These models have 20mm lugs and features crown guards on either side of the crown winder. Now, there are a few differences between the cases on these models depending on what year you purchase. Now, on the models from 1988 to the year 2000, you'll find that they have holes on the cases by the lugs. Now, this was there to make it easier to change the straps. Some people prefer different straps on the Rolex Submariner, but when they come to the year 2000, they got rid of the holes. So then it was just a solid case. So if you look at a model from, like I said, 88 to about 2000, you'll notice holes on the lugs of the outside of the case. Models after that, there are no holes. So if you're trying to identify which model you are purchasing, a big key of the year is the holes on the case or no hole. Also, now on models from about 2005, Rolex started engraving the serial number on the inner bezel. Also with this, they engraved the words Rolex, Rolex, Rolex. So if you're looking at a model from 2005 and after, you'll notice that there's no holes on the case. And also inside that inner bezel, you will see the serial number and you'll see the words Rolex, Rolex, Rolex. The other main difference now on this watch is the luminance. So this is another key to tell what year you have got from these models. Now, the Submariner 16610 features a glossy black dial with white text. Now, the hour markers now are outlined in white gold. This sort of lets them be a little bit more hard wearing, and they don't tend to rust and age as much as obviously previous Submariner dials would have. Also, the hands are made of white gold as well, so you won't get the rusting on the inside of the watch like you would, and the aging that you would have on previous iterations of the Submariner. The earlier models of this had a tritium lume. Now, tritium lume had a 15-year luminescence to it, but after a while, Rolex changed this material. So Rolex stopped using this tritium lume in the late 1990s, and they moved to using luminova. This is a photoreactive luminescence material. However, within about a year or two of using this material, Rolex switched it up again, and they started using superluminova. Now, this is also a photoreactive substance. Now, there's a way to tell which watch you have and what luminescence your Rolex has, depending on obviously year and depending on which iteration you've got of the 16610. So to tell which iteration you have, if you look at the 6 o'clock marker just under it, where it usually says Swiss made, you will see different, obviously, writing. Now, this will tell you what material your Rolex has. So if you have a tritium luminescence, your Rolex will read Swiss T25. Now, I'll put it on the screen so you can see this. Now, the ones that have just a luminova luminescence will just say Swiss underneath the 6 o'clock marker. And the ones with superluminova will have Swiss made. So this is a good way to tell which watch or which iteration and which luminescence you have of the 16610LN. Now, dials with the luminova or superluminova will glow green in the dark in response to the light. Now, the tritium ones will tend not to glow anymore, as this only had a 15-year life, and all these watches now have gone past that 15-year mark. But it is interesting to see, and you will know if it has, obviously, what iteration it has on the bottom of the dial, so you can tell which luminescent material your Rolex has. Now, the 16610 bezel is made from aluminium. It's an aluminium bezel insert. So this is a pre-ceramic Rolex Submariner. Now, there's big debate whether people like the ceramic or pre-ceramic. Now, this is a pre-ceramic sub. A specialized internal spring provides a bezel with a 120-click ratchet motion, while the metal washer sits below the bezel ring to reduce friction for a smoother operation. The bezel insert is graduated to 60 minutes, and there is a luminescent dot placed at the 0 marker to help users measure a lapse of time in low light conditions. Now we go back to the movement. So like I said before, is the 3135 caliber movement. The caliber 3135 is a quick set movement that boasts a certification of a chronometer, and it is self-winding technology. Now, this caliber has a 48-hour power reserve, and this was amazing at the time. Now, it is also widely considered to be one of the best and most reliable mass-produced mechanical movements ever created by Rolex. The caliber 3135 was even used to power future generations of the Submariner. This was only taken out and upgraded in the year 2020. All the references in the 16610 feature a stainless steel Oyster Bracelet. Now, there are some differences between the earlier models and the later models with this bracelet. Now, all of them feature a extendable dive link, but there is differences with this too, depending on what year. However, when it comes to the end links and the style of dive extension, this is where you've noticed some differences. In the early 2000s, shortly before the switch from holes to the no-holes case, the Rolex also updated the style of Oyster Bracelet fitted to the Submariner 16610. On earlier examples, the end links were separate hollow pieces, but later on, the end links were machined pieces of solid steel that were permanently attached to the rest of the bracelet. Similarly, Rolex also updated the style of dive extension at this time, changing it from a fold-out piece of stamped metal to a slightly more refined link-based design that allowed for a superior hold when the wetsuit extension latched into the closed position. So that is the specs of the Rolex 16610. Now, that is one of the greatest Rolex Submariners in my opinion. I think this watch was absolutely beautiful. Now, like I said, it bridges the gap between vintage Rolexes and the modern Rolexes. If you're into pre-ceramics, it's probably this watch that you look at. When you think of Rolex Submariners, it's probably this watch you think of. Now, this watch is elegant. It can be used as a daily wearer. It can be used as a dress watch. It is absolutely iconic. Now, it is a little bit of information that hopefully now will help you decipher which models and which years these models are from if you're looking to buy them. Please like, subscribe, and thank you for watching the video.